Okay, well, today is our very first episode, so we'll just start with introducing ourselves. I'm Courtney Havens.
I'm Kenneth Havens.
We're with Havens Business Services. This is our first take of our first episode of From Launch to Legacy, where we talk about how to start and run a business. And this is our first topic, and it is what business to start. So I know that some of you may have an idea, but others, they know that they want to start a business, but they don't know where to even come up with an idea. So there's lots of different resources on that. You can Google it, you can AI search it, you can listen to a bunch of different podcasts. So we're just going to talk a little bit today. Some of the things that you can do to try to figure out what kind of business you want. So I think the most important thing, and we'll see if Kenneth agrees, is why you want to start your business. What is it that you would like to get from starting your business?
I like the figuring out what you're, like what are you trying to get out of it? I had a note here of also what do you want the business to accomplish? What do you want the business to accomplish in your life? Yeah, I think the more clarity you have about what you're intending on doing, it gives you a little more direction and focus. You can be real vague and then you just kind of wander around, not really accomplishing anything or moving forward. So I think clarity of, at least a tentative goal is very important when you sit down.
Okay, so I have a couple of things that you can do when you are trying to figure that out. So there's the Ikigai, which is IKAGAI, and that's like a worksheet that you can download. Google has lots of different kinds, and it takes your passion, your mission, your profession, and your vocation. And you think about what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can actually be paid for.
That last one is super important.
Yeah.
And I kind of pick a fight on this one with the passion part. There's definitely passions that you can follow. Those are good ideas for business. There's a lot of people are passionate about hobbies that are not going to be a viable business. And you really enjoying and even being good at something does not mean it's something that should be a business. You should, like you said, what can you sell? What will people buy? What can you make a living off of? Because, I've got a passion for sitting around campfires. I'm not going to make much money doing that professionally. So the passion one, I've got a passion for accounting, but that was developed through stumbling into the field and then just developing a love for it over time. That was not something I picked a career based on a passion I already had. So I found a useful skill and then became passionate about that. And I think that's a really good approach. Now, there's tons of people out there that do have a passion, turn that into a business, and they're very successful at it. So you just really, that last point you brought up of, can you sell it? Can you make money off of it? Because that's, you as a person and the IRS are going to decide what's a hobby and what's a business. So that's definitely something to consider when you're starting to form these ideas of what you're going to do.
Okay, so the next thing that I have is personality tests. I know that we've both taken quite a few personality tests. So those can help you out to figure out what kind of thing you're suited for if you don't have something that you know that you love already. They have some really good career personality tests that are mixed together so that it takes lots of different things in the aspects, and you have like 20 different job titles or whatever that you can look at. Another thing to think about is your strengths and weaknesses. What do you think about that?
I think that's super important. I think it's really hard to judge for yourself.
Yeah.
I think those are difficult topics to self-assess. And I mean, I would not, that's a weakness of mine, is self-assessing my strengths and weaknesses. So, um, I think we'll talk about this here in a minute, but reaching out to people you trust to kind of make sure that your self-assessment is in the realm of reality, because a lot of times we have a different perception of ourselves than what is true, whether that's more negative or more positive. So it's good to have an objective third party that can kind of say, well, it's more this or not.
Do you know the author Simon Sinek?
I have heard of him.
So he says that you should ask a friend, why are we friends? Like, what is it? So I would come not to you because you're too personally invested, but to another friend of mine and say, what is it about me that you like, that draws you to me? And they will probably be like, I don't know, we're just friends, or we get along, or whatever. But if you keep asking and tell them, I really would like to know your point of view on this, then he says you'll get to some of your core things that make you who you are, that you can use to find different careers or something that you're passionate about. You can also go to gallup.com and you can take their strength finder test. I think that was really good for me. Like you said, assessing yourself is hard. So when you take a test like that, it doesn't care about your feelings. It just tells you what the real thing is.
Yeah, I actually have a note there about this, this is something I've had to learn how to do. I'm still not very good at it, but learning how to take constructive criticism without taking it personally. That's something you've got to learn how to do as a business owner, because you can be the smartest person in the room, you can have the most skills, you can be the most talented, but you're not perfect, and you've got room to improvement, and you've got blind spots and weak points that if you let your ego get in the way and you don't address those, or you won't even acknowledge that they're there, you'll pay for that down the road.
Yeah.
So when you ask your friends if it's a really good friend, my friends would be mean, but
yes.
but
Guys, if you're listening, definitely choose wisely.
yeah pick which friends you want. Someone pretty close but not too close, because they'll just make fun of you the whole time. And I have another note down here and a lot of these were insights into me about where we're at and where I'm at as a business owner, and it was getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. That's a really difficult thing to do. But when you start a business, you realize very quick that any image you had of what this process looks like, what being a business owner looks like, or even what your business was going to do or looks like, was wrong.
Yeah.
Yes. And the clients don't come as fast as you want. The money,
and then they come too fast.
And yeah, I mean, we'll talk, that's a whole episode of managing expectations and all that. But, you are at the beginning of the first Dunning-Kruger hill, and that's a whole nother episode. But know that you're going to learn some knowledge, and you're going to feel like you've kind of got it. After a little bit, you're going to go, oh, I don't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, this is one thing that I do have down now. And that's anything we learn. That could be, sport, hobby, anything, but it certainly applies to being a business owner. I have a huge note here that says never stop learning.
Yes.
I mean, you can't.
Yeah.
Because someone's going to figure out something in your industry that's going to make them super profitable, and then everyone's going to start mimicking. If you're not learning and adapting, you'll die.
Yeah, that takes me to AI and how it's changed so much just over the short amount of time that we've been in business. When we first started, I didn't know anything about artificial intelligence. I knew what I saw in movies and that the robots were going to come to life and kill us all. But I think it was a few months after we started that I started to use it a little bit to help with writing. I think the first time was maybe the business plan. And then I started using it to write documents.
Yeah.
It took me a while actually to start using it for email. I think I don't use it as often as I should because it makes everything so much faster if you'll just start it with AI and then you have a base point. But not just in writing, it is taking over everything. So they have AI now that works on, accounting, taxes,
Yeah.
everything. Even stuff that has nothing to do with our industry. So I think it's really important that you keep learning about everything, but especially that because that's what's affecting us a lot right now.
Yeah. And it's a pretty dangerous, I think, ideology to think, oh, well, this thing will never be replaced by computers or robots because
Yeah.
countless industries, people thought this will never happen, and those industries don't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
So if there's something prevalent that's coming down, a new technology, a new, even like law that may come in that can, may affect your tax strategy or may affect your industry as a whole. We're here in Texas and you cannot bet on sports in our state, but that used to be a thing. And like FanDuel and those sites, they took a big hit when Texas got removed from the client pool. So just even local legislation can have effect on your industry. So just always be learning, always be paying attention because the landscape for your business is very fluid. And if you're not paying attention, you're gonna go down with the ship.
Someone else is.
Right.
Someone else is paying attention.
Absolutely.
So, okay, enough about AI and all of that. So the next couple of things that are really important are what are you willing to give up? What is your family willing to give up? And what safeguards do you need to put in place? So you might have the time to do something, but do you have the funds to do that thing? Or you may have the funds to do it, but you really don't have the time because you have the job that you are in right now and your kids have soccer practice and you are big in your church and you just don't have the time to start something as big as starting a new business.
Yeah. And you had some great notes here. Like, what are you willing to give up? What is your family willing to give up? And this is not something that it's like, oh yeah, I can handle that. No, you need to have a serious conversation with these people, and everyone needs to be honest because if they can't give it up, saying yes right now, or if you're like, I can give that up. I want you to think about every New Year's resolution you've made, every diet you've been on. Can you give things up?
Right.
And if you can't, you are setting yourself up, not necessarily for failure, but you're definitely going to make life harder for yourself if you don't take care of these things before they're a problem.
Right.
So, really make sure that, if you've got a spouse, then y'all spend a lot of time together, or if you've got kids and they've got a bunch of activities, but you're going to have to be working 12, 16-hour days, your spouse is going to have to pick up all that slack.
Yes.
So that's a conversation you need to have, and you need honest feedback from your spouse, your kids,
your
whoever's
family.
You're right. Or if you've got a babysitter,
right.
You need to talk to them and make sure that that's something that they're going to be able to handle because if it's going to be a problem, it's going to be a problem. So you can either take care of it before you even go down this path, or you can deal with it on the fly down the road. And that's going to be a lot harder to do.
Yeah. I think part of that goes back to in the beginning when you thought about why are you doing this? What is it that you want to get out of it? Do you need extra money? Because if it's just about money, there are so many other options that are gonna really work with your life better than trying to start something from scratch, for sure.
Oh, absolutely.
If it is that you really want to feel like you have a purpose, then is there something that you like? I don't want to just say a hobby, but something that you love that you could spend more time on instead of starting a business. I think that there's lots of different things that you can do that are going to be a lot easier.
Yes, yes. I mean, yeah, like even getting involved with your church, if there's anything, being on an intramural sports team. But I think those are really good points, and I don't think I've ever really thought about it. But if you're starting a company to fill a hole in your life or bridge a gap, that's not going to be a recipe for success, right?
No,
there.
because it's going to make everything harder.
Right, because you have to love what being a business owner, because we love being business owners. We started it for financial freedom, not to make the money.
Right.
We didn't want to be rich. We
took a big pay cut.
Big pay cut when we left our last job. Knowing what your time constraints are going to be. There's a lot of sacrifice you're going to have to make. And if this is not 100% what you want to do, you take a step back. That does not mean you can't be a business owner.
Right.
Maybe you need to pick a different thing. Maybe you need to go learn something completely new.
Yes. That's one of the things I wanted to talk about too. I wish I would have had the time to learn before it became sink or swim. I wish I could have listened to more people talk. I wish I could have met more people, read more books, had more time. That's not usually how life works. But if you're in a place where you are okay with your job, but you have a want and a drive to start a business, I suggest that you start by going to the library or half-price books and getting some books on topics that you're interested in and read about those, or biographies, autobiographies on people who started the business that you're in, see what kind of struggles that they had, and just have something that prepares you a little bit more.
Absolutely. And this is 2025. There is zero things you can't learn on the internet.
Correct.
Go out there and grab that knowledge. And like you said, there's a lot of things we wish we had known before we went sink or swim. But
that's why we're here today, right?
Yeah, right. We're here to share,
help you guys out so that you don't have to learn the hard way all the lessons that we've learned.
Yeah, let us have learned those for you and try and impart a little wisdom on you, because a lot of the things we went through was way harder than it needed to be. But you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah, he's going to say that a lot.
Yes. We'll probably have some phrases that I'll get made fun of in the comments for.
Kennethisms.
Yeah, Kennethisms, not my wheelhouse.
Oh.
6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other.
Low-hanging fruit.
You hate that one.
I hate that.
But I think if you can start this business as a side hustle, I think that's a great idea. We didn't do that, and that's not always going to be the case.
Yeah, sometimes you are out of a job.
Right. We've got some clients that...
Yeah, you were laid off, and now you have to find something.
Right.
We'll probably do a whole episode on how we got here.
Or a novel.
Yeah, it was crazy story, but if it's possible, I suggest that you do not quit your job and start a company. There's a ton of stuff that goes into it that no one talks about. I am an avid researcher. I look up everything, and I trust no one. I verify everything 10 different ways. And it was so difficult to figure out how to do almost everything in the beginning.
Yes.
Because every website has a different story.
And they're all trying to sell you that story.
Yes, they are. I don't have anything against business coaches. I don't have anything against life coaches, but they're talking from their experience.
Right.
And how they, fell into this or worked their way up or whatever. And everybody's experience is different. I suggest you get as much knowledge beforehand as possible.
Going back to the get comfortable with being uncomfortable, go seek out people that you might know in your community. Don't be afraid to walk into a business and say, "Hi, I'm so and so, and can I talk to the owner for 5 minutes and pick your brain?" And a lot of you are going to, just seize up just thinking about doing that. As a business owner, just engaging your random people suddenly, that's a skill you've really got to acquire anyway. So in repetition, we get comfortable with the more we do things. Cold calling and just
putting yourself out there.
That was very difficult for me in the beginning. I felt like it was rude. And
it's hard to be a salesperson if you are not a salesperson. It's very difficult for people like us, probably the people listening right now. We like to listen, we like to watch videos. We're not out there, hanging out and meeting new people as much as some extroverted people would be. Another thing that you can do, I think, the most important really in the beginning is to join groups. I know that people talk about you need a community and they talk about joining a support group. Don't think of it like that unless that works for you.
Right.
Think of it as research.
As a network.
Yes, as a network of people. When we first started, our main push was bookkeeping. So I went on Facebook and I joined every bookkeeping group I could find. Bookkeeping for small businesses, bookkeeping in our area, bookkeeping state of Texas, bookkeeping tips, tricks, and whatever.
Right.
And most of them were not worth anything, but you join them anyway. See what they're talking about. You can delete them later, but you can find out what kind of situation you may find yourself in. You can search keywords and you can look up things and you can find what struggles may be coming for you. Another thing is not just what you want to do, but the people looking for that service and see what they are talking about. You can join groups like small business owners, going back to if you were starting a bookkeeping business, and see what they are talking about. What struggles are they having, so that you have this kind of market research but also a community to talk things through with. Facebook is really good with that. If you really have a thick skin, you can join a Reddit group. They can get pretty mean pretty quick. But if you are just doing market research and you're just reading, then they're perfect because you can see the kind of things. If I say this, this is what's going to happen to me. Yeah.
But I love that point you brought up about, go see what business owners are asking for. Go see what they're looking for. If you've got a skill set somewhere like, I had bookkeeping, taxes, I had, almost 2 decades experience in that. And so I wish I had gone in and looked at specifically what business owners were looking for. You're going to think bookkeeping is, all right, there we go. That's specific. It's not. That is very, very vague.
Yes.
You'll hear the word niche a lot. In a lot of advice you get, and I think there's times where it's appropriate, and I think there's times where it's not. I don't think there's anything that I'm like blanket. This is always true.
Yes.
But that's a lot of the information you get out there. It's it's always nothing's always anything. That nuance is if I'm looking at a resource and there's no nuance and it's just this is the way. I'm done with this article. This is I don't trust this because that perspective cannot be correct.
Right. But also now when you Google something, you've got however you phrase that sentence, that's how you're going to get that answer.
Yeah.
So you can change one word and a whole other system for how to use that comes up. So I would just say make sure you look into it over and over and over again. Also, local market research is something that you should be doing. Go talk to people in your town. If you're in a church, talk to some people in your church. If you go to the library, talk to those people. You can visit lots of different things. There's a lot of different networking groups that you can visit. We can talk about that later.
That's its whole episode. That'll be a 4-hour rant.
Oh, we'll have Delaney chop it down so it's not so bad for you guys. But that is a resource that's there. You can go to the Small Business Association. It has good stuff on it. They have mentors on there for everything you could ever think of. You can look at your state. You can look at your local. You can go to a farmer's market if that's something that you have in your area, and just talk to the people there and say, I was thinking about doing this. Is that something you think that you would be interested in? And some of those people are going to tell you to leave.
Right.
Or they don't care at all. But that's going to help you, because owning a business, starting a business, your feelings are going to get hurt. So if you can get hurt by people you don't care about and get a thicker skin that way versus your family, because I mean, we have a really great, really supportive family who were on our side with starting a business. That's not always the case. And just because they were supportive doesn't mean that helped our business.
Right.
You only have a small number of family members in our family, because we have a lot of onlys in generations. Children, so there's not a lot of us, but even if there were, you can only do so many tax returns if that's the case. You know, if you want to sell cups or something, they're only going to buy a certain number, and then you're going to run out of those people. Yeah. So, you know, you want to talk to people in as many different fields as you can. Yeah.
And you'll be surprised how many people will give you their opinion.
Oh, everyone has an opinion.
Yeah. I mean, just get on Facebook. Everyone's giving their opinion about things that they should not be giving their opinion about. But if you go ask people, they'll tell you. I mean, you're gonna get some people that are like, I do not have time. Who are you? I don't have time for this.
Yes.
And which is probably me sometimes, but I'm working on that, and that's identifying again your weak points and where to improve. You're gonna get a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of it's gonna be contradictory. Because people's experiences are different. So if you're getting a lot of feedback, don't get overwhelmed by all that feedback. Understand that 50 to 90% of that is not going to apply to you, but just try and pick out the little nuggets, these little gold nuggets of truth that you can hold on to and apply to your business or to your life. And I think
and let the rest go.
Yeah, and then the rest is just nonsense. Or it may not be nonsense, but it may not apply to you. A lot of it's nonsense, so watch out for that.
Another thing is, I heard this a lot, and it still surprised me. Your family, your friends, your Facebook people are not going to usually be the ones that are cheering you on. It is strangers.
Right.
There are people, that I've never met who are the ones that have helped me get through this. There are new people that I met that helped me get through this more than people that I already knew, because they're not in this.
Right.
I mean, maybe it's different for you, but my friends and family, they don't own businesses, so they don't have a lot of advice. Or when I start talking about it, that's not their thing.
Right.
So, they're falling asleep when I'm talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just not their deal. If your friends and family seem disinterested, don't take that, to heart, because it's just not what they're into. Not everybody wants to start a business. Not everybody is an entrepreneur. And then those stats, I'll maybe have to get the actual numbers, but it's like of 100,000 businesses that are started, 1,000 last.
More than 2 years?
I think it's 3. I'll get the real numbers, and maybe we'll talk about it on the next episode, but
we're almost there. 5 months.
Yep. 2.5 years we've been doing this. So a lot we have learned, a lot we have left to learn.
Oh, yeah. And I think that, the pool of knowledge grows exponentially. So, the more you learn, that there's stuff you don't know. So
Right.
you feel like you've kind of got a pretty static level of knowledge, but just know that you're growing in knowing what you don't know. The farther you get into owning a business, the more information will start coming your way.
Yeah.
And knowing what to just disregard, you cannot take in every piece of information.
Yeah.
You'll get overwhelmed. It will fry your cognitive ability, and you just can't. There was Lieutenant Colonel Hal Moore. He was a lieutenant colonel in Vietnam, and he's got 17 rules of leadership. But one of my favorites is when you look at history, if you're looking at people that made a business in your industry, don't look at the success. It's almost always those are anomalies.
Yes.
You don't have the same circumstances. You don't have the same market. Look at why people fail and look at what consistent themes there are in those failures. And then now, how do I avoid those? Because that's going to do more for you than studying every successful business in your market or industry.
Okay, so that was a lot, I know, but let's kind of go over the things that we talked about. So if you know that you want to start a business or you are thinking about starting a business, start with why you want to do it. What is driving you? What kind of difference do you want to make? So start there. Then there's lots of different things, the Ikigai, which we will have one on our website, personality tests, strength and weakness, your core traits that you can talk to your friends or family, or just think about yourself. What abilities do you have? And then research. Look up that industry or that few industries. Look up something adjacent. One thing that you can do if you think you want to do something is to go on one of the AI searches and say, what are 10 business ideas surrounding this? So find out why you want to do it and then what you want to do. And then you want to figure out what commitment you can make to it and what training you need. So I think those are the places to start if you want to start a business, but you're not sure what business.
Yeah. And I think the running theme and all the things that you just said, you need to be as honest with yourself. Because if you've got that background thought of, can I trust this person's opinion? You're like, yeah, but no. That's already a no. If you've got hesitations, that doesn't mean don't start a business. That doesn't mean, give up on the idea. That means this is something you need to look into, see if this is a stumbling block, something that's going to be a problem, and just how do you mitigate it? It's not a roadblock.
Right.
It's a hurdle.
Right.
If we get over them, but you've got to get over it. You've got to get past this thing. But if you ignore things that that's a dangerous game because there's already going to be 1,000 things you didn't know about that are going to hit you too. So
Absolutely.
Don't add to that list if you can help it.
Yep. Well, that is our advice on what to do if you know you want to start a business, but you don't know what business to start.
Yep.
Our next episode is talking about if you know what business you want to start, where to start there.
Yeah.
So we'll have lots of things to go over in that, things that took us way too long to learn. Some of the things that are really important that you need to know beforehand, and some of this other stuff that you can wait on. So we'll let you know lots of different things about that on our next episode.
Yeah, I think if I can give one more piece of
Sure.
advice, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, "Oh, I'm not smart enough. I'm not qualified enough. I'm not talented enough." We've worked with hundreds of businesses, and
And you are.
Yeah, in a consulting capacity, we have a business that works with businesses. We are a business about businesses, so we really see how businesses operate, how the management's operating, how the financials are, and then we try and tweak the knobs a little bit to help get them back on track when they can't seem to do that. But one thing that we have encountered over the last few years is a lot of business owners. If you have an image of a business owner where they've got their whole life put together, no,
they don't.
I haven't met a single business owner that has ever lived up to the standard I had in my head of business owners.
Yes.
So don't let self-doubt stop you, or just know when you get out there, you're going to go, oh, I'm
doing all right.
Yeah, I'm doing all right. That was, something I felt learned pretty quick. we work with a lot of great clients, and there's just some gaps there and some stuff. But then, we worked with, bless their hearts, some disaster.
Yes. They were good at what they did,
Yes.
but all the rest was not their strong suit.
Yep.
So that's another thing that we want to help with. I can't teach you how to make something woodworking or whatever. If you already know that that's what you want to do because that's what you love, then you are good to go on that end. But that doesn't mean that you can run it as a business.
Right.
So we want to help you learn how to do the back end of your business and tell you about some pitfalls and some things that are going to come along to help better prepare you for the stuff that there's no way you could know this stuff. There's just no way until you're in it.
Right.
Could you have figured all of this out unless it happened to you?
Right. So let us make the mistakes for you.
Yeah, we did. We already did them.
We already did. So, all right. Well, I think that pretty much wraps up this one. So,
yeah, thank you so much for watching our first episode or listening to our first episode. And I hope that you listen to our next episode about how to actually get that business started.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Bye.